This is Clyde. And this is how angry I am for every waking moment that ED page is up.
All right, listener, buckle up, because today's deep dive is a wild one. We're venturing into the Internet Hall of Fame / infamy. It's a fine line, really, to unpack the saga of Chris Chan and his arch nemesis, Clyde Cash.
And we're going deep into the CWCki for this one.
That online encyclopedia chronicling Chris Chan's life.
Yeah, it's all there. Every bizarre twist and turn, we're using it to understand how this whole saga went down.
So for anyone just joining us in the deep end here, who is this Clyde Cash? Why is he considered Chris's nemesis?
Well, on the surface, Clyde Cash is this larger-than-life villain in Chris's world. But here's the catch. He's a fictional character, a persona crafted by a single person to, believe it or not, troll Chris.
A single person.
One person behind it all. And what makes this whole thing fascinating and honestly kind of disturbing is how this troll was able to use multiple fake identities like Vivian G and Greg Mays to manipulate Chris. I mean, they wove this intricate web around him.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. So it sounds like this troll created this whole cast of characters just to mess with Chris.
Pretty much.
And the CWCki mentioned something called the rape of Panda Halo. I'm not even sure I want to know, but what happened there?
This is where the trolling takes a dark, dark turn. So Panda Halo, another one of the troll's online personas, claims that Clyde Cash raped her and that she was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
With his child. The goal was clearly to get a rise out of Chris, to see how far he could be pushed.
And how did Chris react to that? I can only imagine.
That's the thing. Chris's reaction is almost more telling than the troll's actions themselves.
Really?
But we'll get into that a bit later. First, let's look at how this whole Sonichu Girls thing fits into the bigger picture.
Right, the Sonichu Girls. Because obviously a fake rape wasn't enough.
Right.
This group seems key to understanding just how deep this rabbit hole goes. What was the troll's game plan there?
Okay, imagine you're Chris. You're desperate for connection, for validation, and suddenly this whole online community pops up.
Okay.
Dedicated to Sonichu. And they're showering you with praise.
Wow.
That was the Sonichu Girls.
So a group of seemingly devoted fans, tailor-made to appeal to Chris's ego.
Except it was all fake, all orchestrated by Clyde and his cronies.
Yeah.
They even created this whole persona, Julie, who developed this whole online relationship with Chris. Classic catfishing. But with an added layer of cruelty because they knew exactly how much Chris craved that kind of attention.
It's like they were building him up just to tear him down.
Exactly.
And speaking of elaborate setups, the CWCki mentions this group called the Miscreants.
Yeah. Yes.
It sounds like something straight out of a comic book.
Right.
And what's with this man in the pickle suit character? Was he part of that group too?
The Miscreants were basically Clyde's A-team, his crew, dedicated to messing with Chris. They took credit for all sorts of things that happened in Chris's life, even stuff that, occurred before they were even on the scene.
Oh, wow.
And the man in the pickle suit, yeah, that was a real doozy.
Okay, you have to give me some details. Who dresses up as a pickle to troll someone?
Apparently someone who's really committed to the bit.
I guess so.
Picture this. Chris is on a date. And out of nowhere, this guy in a pickle costume shows up and starts causing a scene.
Oh, my God.
It's both hilarious and a little pathetic, and it perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of this whole situation.
It's like something out of a bad sitcom.
It really is.
So we have Clyde, the Sonichu Girls,
Right.
the Miscreants,
Right.
and a pickle-suited wild card.
But how did Chris react to all of this? Did he just take it lying down?
Not exactly. Chris tried to fight back in his own way with what the CWCki calls counter-trolling.
Counter-trolling.
Yeah.
So he was trying to out-troll the trolls.
Yeah, but his attempts were, well, let's just say they were about as effective as a screen door on a submarine.
Okay, I can only imagine. What did that look like in Chris's world?
Picture this. Chris drawing a picture of himself choking Clyde.
Oh, using a beat-up clown doll as a voodoo doll to, unleash his rage.
Wow.
Even threatening violence, trying to dox Clyde the whole 9 yards.
Doxing. You've lost me there.
Oh, yeah. Doxing is when you expose someone's personal information online, like their real name, their address, that kind of thing,
Okay.
with the intent to harass or intimidate them. It's a serious no-no in the online world, and it shows just how desperate Chris was to get back at this guy.
So did he ever actually find out who was behind the Clyde persona? Was all this counter-trolling successful at all?
Ironically, no.
Really?
Several times, Chris thought he had Clyde's real identity, even going so far as to, try and blackmail him with a compromising photo.
Oh, wow.
But every time, he was wrong. The troll was always one step ahead, feeding him false information, watching him spin his wheels.
That's kind of heartbreaking in a twisted way. It's like this troll had such a grip on Chris's reality that Chris couldn't see the difference between truth and fiction anymore.
Yeah.
Which I guess was the whole point.
Right.
But if Clyde was this puppet master, this online mastermind, why fake his own death? That seems extreme, even for a troll.
Right. In 2009, the troll cooks up this elaborate story about Clyde dying by suicide.
Oh, wow.
You'd think that would be the end of it, right?
Yeah, you'd think even the most dedicated troll would call it a day after that.
Nope. A few months later, Clyde's back from the dead, hacking into Chris's PlayStation Network account.
What?
He even makes a couple of purchases.
He came back from the dead to mess with Chris's PlayStation. You gotta be kidding me.
It's almost comical, but it also shows how deeply invested this troll was in messing with Chris. Even death couldn't stop him. The CWCki even mentions that Chris tries to meet up with Clyde in real life. Imagine that conversation.
Oh my gosh.
Did it ever happen?
Well, listener, here's where the story takes another turn.
Yeah, the CWCki doesn't actually say if they met up or not.
Okay.
But it does say that Clyde eventually just retires from trolling. And get this, Chris seemingly forgives him.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
There's even fan art out there of the two of them burying the hatchet, becoming friends.
Wait, hold on. After all the manipulation, the cruelty, the pickle suits, they end up buddies.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
It's a bizarre twist, right? But it speaks to the complexity of this whole situation. On the one hand, you have Clyde as master manipulator preying on Chris's vulnerabilities. But then you have Chris who, despite everything, seems to crave that connection, even if it was all, built on lies.
It's like a bizarre reflection of those parasocial relationships people develop with celebrities or influencers or whatever. Except in this case, the celebrity is a troll with the keyboard and way too much time on his hands.
Exactly. And the fact that Chris forgave Clyde, even after everything that happened, it kind of suggests that on some level, Chris might have understood the game they were playing. But he chose to,
blur the lines.
Blur the lines, exactly.
Because the fantasy was more appealing. Even if it was built on a foundation of lies. I mean, who hasn't gotten sucked into a good story, even if we know it's not real? This was just on a whole other level.
Right. And it makes you think about the power of the internet to amplify those desires for connection, for validation. In a way, both Chris and the troll behind Clyde were seeking something, attention, validation, maybe even a twisted sense of belonging. It's kind of
sad in a way.
It is sad, yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the internet, there's a human element at play.
Yeah.
These weren't just characters on the screen. These were real people with real emotions, even if those emotions were expressed in, incredibly unhealthy ways. This deep dive has been eye-opening, to say the least.
It really has.
Any final thoughts for our listener before we wrap up?
I think the Clyde Cash saga is a wild, wild ride through, the weird side of internet culture. But it's also a reminder that behind every screen name, every online persona, there's a real person. So as you navigate the online world, listener, just remember to, think about those human connections, even in the most unexpected places, and maybe, just maybe, be a little kinder to each other, even if someone shows up to a date in a pickle suit.
Words to live by. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, listener. We'll catch you next time for another plunge into the
I have your mug shot. I can't even stand to look at it. All those damn freckles. You're a freak. I scoff at you, you ugly freak.